Welcome to the Tint and Highlights application. This technique will demonstrate an accurate placement of weaved sections of colour through one area, with the remainder of the hair tinted to give a multi-tonal look. Prior to colouring, conduct a thorough assessment of the hair texture and the natural base colour, density and porosity, making note of any scalp abrasions that may be present. In this case, the model's hair is a dark blonde, depth or level 6, with a natural ash tone, medium density and good porosity. Ideally, the hair should not be pre-washed at least 24 hours prior to tinting, as the skin's own sebaceous oil will help to protect the scalp during the colouring process. The equipment required for the first part of this technique is as follows: 1 needle or tail comb, 6 alloy non-oxidizing sectioning clips, some pre-prepared foils, a bowl and brushes and the selected colour and peroxide. This demonstration shows the folding of the highlighting foil so that it has the appropriate edge for inserting close to the root of the hair. For this technique, the chosen highlight colour is 30 ml of a light blonde, depth or level 8, and 30 ml of a medium blonde, depth or level 7 with a red tone, plus 60 ml of 9% oxidant or 30 volume peroxide. Note how the tint is completely blended before adding the developer. This ensures that the product will be easier to mix. The hair has been divided into 2 triangles on either side of the head, and a larger triangular section through the heavy side of the parting. The first section to be applied will be the triangle section, sitting just above the ear. Note that only oxy-resistant alloy clips are used to section the hair. First, take a fine slice through the front hairline, then a fine weave is subdivided from the top of this section. Place the foil underneath this section close to the root and apply the colour. The colour is now applied below the folded line of the previously prepared foil to avoid any colour leaking onto the scalp. Fold the foil as shown horizontally, taking the foil end to the root and lightly pressing together. Place another fold approximately 1/3 of the length from the end. Then finally fold each side vertically into the centre to create a sealed packet. Now take a second parallel section and repeat this process. The thickness of each section is dependent on the density of the hair being worked on. This section is also weaved and isolated with foil as before. Take care to ensure that an equal amount of hair is left between each individual weave. This will distribute the colour evenly and give a softer, more natural finished result. Now continue up to the top of this section. When the top of this area is reached, a small triangular section remains. Weave this section gently and notice how the foil is folded due to the shape of the section. The first area is now complete. Now work on the large triangular section through the heavier side of the natural parting. Notice how this section has been divided into two. This is purely to reduce the amount of hair in the clips. Start at the front hairline and section the hair on a diagonal line, working with the curvature of the head. This will allow the colour to be applied closer to the scalp. Weave gently through the front hairline and place a foil underneath this section, then apply the colour. Now continue with parallel sections, working towards the crown area. In the side panel, this area ends with a small triangular section. As before, weave gently and fold the foil to reflect the shape of the section taken. This will result in a triangular shaped packet. Here is the finished section, which completes the first side. The same sectioning, weaving and foiling technique will now be demonstrated with the right hand. As before, notice that an equal amount of hair is being left between each weave that's picked up with the tail comb. Notice how the weaved hair is lifted up, the foil placed underneath fitting snugly to the roots, and how the foil is then secured in either corner with the free hand. The foil is then folded in half once and gently patted, then folded again. Note that the new end does not quite reach the roots. Use the edge of the comb to make the fold crisp. Now fold either side in line with the width of the section to create a small packet. The foil can also be locked at the roots by using the tail of the comb and folding the foil over. This reinforces the sealing of the colour. However, please note that this locking of colour is not recommended for a tint with highlights, as it makes it more difficult for the tint and highlights to meet, and dark patches may result. Once again, notice the locking technique demonstrated. Notice how the foil is secured at either corner and along the top. Here you can see the locking of the foil in more detail. Now return to the main technique. Section the second side in the same manner as the first. Bear in mind, however, that these sections will be slightly smaller due to the natural parting being positioned on this side. Take a fine slice, then weave as before. Once again, remember that the amount of hair between each weave should be equal and constant throughout the sections. Once the top of the triangle is reached, weave gently and fold the foil slightly smaller. This will result in a more triangular shaped packet. Now work on the final section through the top, starting at the front hairline. Work with diagonal sections towards the crown area. Note the final weave is very fine, leaving a soft veil of colour at the crown area. Here we have the finished foil sections. The next stage of the technique requires the following equipment: one pair of non-latex gloves, one large tooth tinting comb, some damp cotton wool, and the chosen product and developer. In this case, the chosen colour is 45 ml of a light brown, depth or level 5 with a brunette tone, and 15 ml of a dark blonde red plus 60 ml of 6% oxidant or 20 volume peroxide. barrier cream is applied to the back hairline, which will minimize any staining during the second colour application. Divide the hair vertically through the centre back. The section starts just underneath the foiled area and finishes in the centre of the nape. Apply the selected colour to the root area. After dividing the hair vertically over the top of the ear underneath the foil sections, apply the product to the hairline. Use gentle brush strokes in this area to avoid a harsh line. Now take fine horizontal sections, applying the product to the underneath of each section, and continue working in the same way towards the crown area. Repeat this procedure on the second side. The sections should be taken at a thickness appropriate to the density of the hair. In this instance, they're approximately 1 centimetre in thickness. Now return to the first side, where the colour is now applied to the mid-lengths and the ends of the hair. Applying the product in this order, roots first, then mid-lengths and ends, will give an even, precise application. Here are the 2 back sections complete. Now begin to colour the remaining hair between the foil sections. Start through the crown area and gently lift the foil up. Apply the product by drawing the hair down between the foils into the previously coloured sections. For accuracy and so that the foils are not dislodged, use gentle brush strokes throughout this stage of the technique. Now work methodically through the sides, applying colour to all of the hair in between each foil packet. Notice how the hair through the sides is coloured between the foils and drawn into the previously coloured hair. Use gentle sweeping strokes around the front hairline, which will avoid staining and give a more natural appearance. Notice the technique that is used to colour the remaining sections around the front hairline. Once again, use light brush strokes on the hairline. Now apply the colour to the roots along the natural parting. Now use the same sectioning and application method as for the first side. Because this is the heavier side of the shape, there will be more hair to incorporate than the first side. Once again, use light, gentle brush strokes through the front hairline to avoid excessive staining. Now allow the colour to process according to the manufacturer's instructions. When the processing time is complete, lightly rub the hair to check the colour inside the foil. Here we see the finished result. Note the soft copper tones working through a richer base, giving a contemporary modern result.